Hello and welcome to my truck. My name is Roy. I'm a home cook and amateur baker, and I'm here on this channel typically sharing recipes that have helped me to lose over 125 pounds, whether those recipes are mine or someone else's. Now today I am obviously in the truck, so there is no recipe today, although we did just do a collab for barbecue recipes on Sunday. So if you did not see that, I did an Alabama white barbecue sauce, which is so good. But go back and check that out. I'll link it down in the description box. But I did not do any other recipes last week or any truck talks because, as many of you know, I went to the reservation that I am from in Maine, the Passamaquoddy Reservation. And actually there are two reservations up there. There's one, which is the one I had lived on when I was a child in Perry, which is a very eastern point on Maine. And then there is also another reservation in Princeton called Indian Township, and they're actually about an hour away from each other. And we went up, my sister and I drove to my sister's, not realizing that she could have just picked me up on the way. We didn't realize she'd be traveling this close to where I am, but that's beside the point. Paul did tell me before he watches this and said, I did tell you, but he told me the day before I was going to go up to her house. He told me on Wednesday. I don't know about you, but I get very anxious with sudden changes. So in my mind, it was just easier. I already had this plan to go up to her house. So it was just easier for me to go and follow the schedule I already had in my mind, because it takes me time to change my mindset. If I know something's going to happen and something else comes up, totally throws me off. I get very anxious about it. So rather than trying to finagle her coming to pick me up, I just drove the hour and a half to her house. It wasn't that big of a deal. But anyways, I drove up to her house Thursday night. Friday morning we left, and it is about a 7.5 hour trip. We were gonna go up and go right to the hotel or apartment. She had rented an apartment, which is another story unto itself that you will hear. There was a sweat lodge that it was going to be taking place on the reservation at 6 o'clock on Friday, and my sister had really wanted to go to that. So rather than going to the apartment, motel, what have you first, we went directly to the reservation. We drove around. It was, I think it's been a couple of decades at least since I was up there. And to say it looked different, but there were some familiar things. There was the old church, which is now abandoned. And there was also the school that I went to. I think they've expanded on the building because it looks a little bigger than I remember, but who knows? My memory is not that great. Anyway, so we drove around. We couldn't tell because we have not been there in so long. We didn't know the names for certain places. They didn't have those names so far as I know when we lived there. But there was a section on the calendar for the sweat lodge. It said Nation Grounds. And we had no idea where that was. So we had to stop and ask someone. Up in Maine, especially around the reservation, if you're driving by somebody, everybody's waving to each other, whether you know the person or not. They just wave. It's really kind of nice. But we did finally find the grounds, the Nation Grounds, where they had the sweat lodge set up. They had a fire going. So when we got there, we were approached by this guy named Danny, who was actually Micmac from up in Canada. And so, I mean, it's not all just Passamaquoddies. Other tribes will come to the sweat lodge, to the Passamaquoddy Days, which is, they used to call them Indian Days. Now they're calling them Passamaquoddy Days, which seems more fitting since it is for the tribe. So he started telling us about what would be happening. And then he came up to us at one point with something smoking, and I was like, it seemed almost like a cigarette or something like that. And he tried to hand it to me, and I said, oh, no. But then it turned out it was just some wood, smoking wood for smudging. So he showed us the smudging, which we've done many, many years ago. But anyway, so he showed us that. He told us what would be happening, how the women go in with skirts. You can't wear shorts. My sister was wearing shorts and was thinking of going in. But they said you can't wear shorts. You could wear them underneath a skirt or a towel. You could even use a towel. I guess it's kind of a representation of the old days. And the men go in without shirts, which even if I could go into the sweat lodge, which I couldn't because it was down low on the ground and there was no way I could get in there with my physical issues. So I wasn't going in, but I definitely wouldn't have gone in with no shirt on. Sorry, not happening. Anyway, so then he told us that there would be like a little cleansing ritual at first. The women would go in first, and then they would bring in 7 stones that had been heated on a fire. I'll show you an image of the fire that was happening right in front of us. I thought it was just wood at first, but the stones were underneath the wood to get hot enough to steam. So the women would go in, get situated on the right-hand side as you're facing the sweat lodge. And then the 7 stones would go in. And then when the men would go in, the facilitator, which was Danny, would bring in 14 more stones to make 21, because 21, 3 groups of 7 is very important. My sister bought some sweetgrass, which is very popular up there, often used for making baskets and things like that. But even the braids of sweetgrass are 3 clumps of 7 strands each woven together. So they did that, and I will show you the video of that part here. Once the sweat lodge started and they were closed in, we left because we were not going to participate, and there was no point in sitting out there because he said it goes in rounds, 4 rounds, and he said it could be anywhere from 20 minutes to an hour or so. So once that was all started, we left. We went to our accommodations, supposedly. My sister had made the reservations on Expedia, and she had told us after she made them that it was something really weird had happened. That there was something from VRBO, and some place called Vercasa, and it was just very weird. But then she got a confirmation. So this place, it was an apartment on the lower level of a house so that we'd have access to the kitchen and whatnot. And it was just up the street from where our brother, Dan, was going to be staying. So, perfect scenario. We were not staying in Perry, we were actually staying about 30 minutes away in Lubeck. I'm not sure why that's what they chose, but that's what they chose. And it was a cute area. So we go to find this house that we're renting the bottom of, supposedly. And there's no number. It's dark. Nothing to indicate it's any sort of rental space or anything. No lights, nothing. It was very weird. I'll show you pictures of what we passed by, and it's going to look a little lighter because when my phone took the picture, it apparently accommodated for how dark it was. But it was dark. My sister started to go up there, and she's like, this just seems sketchy. So then she got back into the car. She called Vacasa, which we'd never heard of before, and told them what was going on. And so they were like, well, let me see. And the phone would cut out. She called back like 4 times, and the phone conveniently kept conking out. Before we got into this house, we had gotten a call, or she had gotten a call, from Eastland Motel saying that our reservations were ready, that they were going to be closing the main office at 9 o'clock, so we'd have to get there. We did not know what they were talking about because supposedly we had this vacation rental. So luckily they had that, because apparently she somehow got booked through Expedia with the Eastland Motel, and also through Verbo, which she's never used, but it went through Expedia somehow, and got this other rental, this supposed rental. So it was just before 9, so I said, we better get over to the Eastland Motel, take whatever they've got, and try to figure this out tomorrow. So that's what we ended up doing. We went there, but she decided we were just staying at the Eastland Motel. The other thing was just way too weird and sketchy. She has tried to, and I don't know if she's fixed it since then, but she contacted VRBO, Verbo, whatever you want to call it. And they were like, oh no, there's no, we're not giving you your money back for canceling at this late time and whatnot. And she's like, I was not about to go into a dark house that showed no signs that I should be there, and there was no access code pad anywhere, which is how you're supposed to get in. And she was just like, no. So she's going to try to resolve that. Anyway, the next day we went up to the reservation. Well, first we stopped at my brother's hotel, which was right on the water, and we had breakfast with him and his 2 sons and his son's friends, and then we went to the reservation, and we were gonna go to visit our cousins. We have some elderly cousins that are living out on the other reservation in Indian Township. So we were going to go visit them Sunday, because my brother Dan thought the dancing, which is what we really wanted to see, was usually on Saturday, or had been last year. It turns out, according to the schedule, that the dancing would be now on Sunday. So we decided that we'd go up to the reservation for a little bit, then go visit Frank and Francis, our cousins at Indian Township, and visit with them for a little bit. So we went, we looked around at some of the booths that they had. It was just like a small little selection of booths. I think there were probably maybe 20. A lot of them with food, a lot of them with jewelry. And then my brother wanted to stop and get some shirts, because this woman makes shirts. If you saw my Passamaquoddy shirt that I'd worn before, that was one that she had made, Brenda. And so he wanted to stop there. We went over there, and we were looking through her shop, and I found a really nice sweatshirt that I would have loved to have, but I was like, I couldn't justify the $35, which I know is not much, but for me, especially toward the end of the month, it was a bit much. But my brother Dan and my sister Kelly decided that they would go in and buy it for me. So I'll actually put a picture of the sweatshirt here. It's really nice. It has the name of the reservation on the front. It's called Pleasant Point in English, but in Passamaquoddy it's Sabayak. Once that happened, my sister Kelly and her child Morgan were kind of iffy about driving an hour to the other reservation. So I ended up going with my brother Dan and his son Nate. So we went to visit Frank and Francis up at Indian Township, and I'll show you the road that they live on. It's just basically gravel. And then my brother said, I bet you will never guess which house is theirs when we pull up to it. And I immediately knew, because it was very colorful, I knew it was their house right away. So we visited with them for about an hour, hour and a half. And Frances had made us some blueberry cake. Maine blueberries are abundant, especially this time of year. So she'd made us some blueberry cake, which we didn't have, but she had us take it home. So then we went back. We had dinner at my brother's hotel and decided to call it an early night because we were going to be going out for the dancing and whatnot the next day. The 2 days we were there before were beautiful. That night as we were sleeping, thunderstorms started rolling in, and the next day was rather dreary, always waiting for that rain to start. Luckily, it didn't really start until after we had left. Actually, I don't think it started until, because we left towards the end of the dancing, but we didn't hear any thunderstorms or rain happening until much later, so I think they got through without any rain falling on them. But before the dancing, we were to meet up there so that they could do a little ritual to honor my brother and mother who had passed. We brought some of their ashes up to scatter them, and we scattered them at a location called Split Rock, which I will show you a picture. There's a big split in the rock, hence the name. So she had to smudge us before the ritual, and that entailed going over the front, going over the back, and then she'd tap you with a feather once she was done. And then she did a ceremony. She sang, beating her drum, and my brother Dan scattered my brother Tom's ashes and my mother's ashes at Split Rock. Luckily, she had asked if we wanted it in the water or on Split Rock. Luckily, we opted for Split Rock because the grade down to the water was very steep. And even just to get to Split Rock, I was standing a little precariously for me. But we had that honor ritual done, and then we thanked her, we moved, and we ended up, my brother Dan and my sister Kelly ended up buying her a nice little turtle plaque that was beautifully made, very colorful. I didn't take a picture of it, so I can't show you that here. But then we sat down, we found a spot for the dancing. At first we were under the tent where the drummers would be. They had, I think it was 6 sections of drummers, different drummers from different Indian nations who had come for Passamaquoddy Days. And then they would do the dancing. They had some honorific things beforehand to veterans, to family members who had passed, etc. And then the dancing began. One of the things that was a little different is typically the dancing would end with what they call a snake dance, where you start dancing around, the dancers come through, they start taking people from the crowd to join in, and it starts to wrap around like a snake. But I'll show you the video of that. And then there were some other dances. There was one that was just for women, and the women had to listen to the words that were being sung, because that would indicate how they were dancing. If they were dancing forward, if they were dancing backwards, if they were dancing sideways, if they were dancing fast, if they were dancing slow. So that was very interesting as well. But I'm going to show you all of that dancing, kind of a hodgepodge of it here, and give myself a little break from talking because I'm almost at the doctor's office, which is where I'm headed. And one thing I didn't mention yet, as many of you know, I was just not having it, not feeling it. I decided while I was away, I was just going to eat what I wanted and not worry about it, and maybe overindulge and just give into it. And I did. And I didn't weigh myself last Friday because I was at my sister's house. I didn't have my scale, and I said I'll just do it as 2 weeks. So I did weigh myself today, and I was shocked. I was only up 0.4 pounds over the last 2 weeks. I really expected it to be much, much worse. But I really lucked out. Now I really have to buckle down, but it seems I may be back on track now. Fingers crossed, because now I have like 28 pounds to lose, not 25 like I did before. But it is what it is. I'm going to go from here, keep working at it, because like they always say, you don't fail unless you stop trying. I'm going to keep trying. I'm not going to give up. And now I'm going to show you some of the native dancing that we saw up on the reservation. And I'll be back after I leave the doctor's office.
They set them up right there, dancers, keep on moving.
Odawagan in our language means ceremony. These ceremonies have been lost for thousands of years. For a lot of years we were bringing them back from the 1890 wax cylinders. There's so many different recordings in there, and it's an honor for me to share with you. I just want to tell you what the snake dance is about. The snake dance is about bringing people together. Each and every one of us. Bring us all together as one people. To care for one another in ceremony. To show Xeltamwagan. To show the love that we have for one another. Coming together. Can I get the drums to start drumming so we can get a little bit of beat here? One of the drums start drumming just a soft beat and I'll share the song. There you go. I can feel that now. We're all coming together as human beings, sharing the love that we have for one another. It's all in our ceremonies. It's all in the language. Self-walking. Coming together as people, sharing songs and stories. Oh, they're walking. Our ceremony. Coming together, joining hands, celebrating, enjoying the music, and celebrating each other. All the language. Teaching me a Passamaquoddy. teaching me to have love and having respect for one another. Teaching me to have love and the best thoughts that I have for you. That's the definition of teaching you to have love in our language. Those of you that are familiar with our language, teaching you to have love is very sacred in our village, in our territory. We're going to continue to share this from one generation to the other. As we continue to work together, build friendships and build relationships, we continue to grow together. What a wonderful concept. These are all teachings of our people. We're handed down since time immemorial. So join us celebrating our culture, our stories,
You want to go get it?
and our songs.
You want to go get it, beverage? We're back.
Also, you guys must get ready because it's going to change here in just a few minutes. The energy level is going to change because everybody is excited that we're coming together and we're celebrating. It's all in our stories, in our songs, and in our language. So get ready, folks. Those drummers, get ready. Because we're going to heat things up a little bit. Let's get them going. Ready? Ready, drummers? You guys know what to do. Ready? Let's go. Everybody celebrate. Let go. Everybody celebrate. Everybody's going in their own direction, folks. Everybody goes. Just go wherever you feel. It's free world here, folks. Everybody can go wherever you want. Enjoy our mother. Enjoy her. Caress her. Enjoy her. And we're all doing the
for our Little Eagle singers.
You want to walk with me or want to sit? I'll be right back. Sit. All right. You guys need anything?
I don't think so.
All right, intertribal time. The dance floor is open. You don't have to be native. If you like this music and you want to join us out in the arena, we're inviting everyone out at this time. just make a second circle on the inside. If it gets too crowded, make a second circle. Lunging back poses sideways.
Okay, so I am done with my visit at the doctor. Had to get some blood work, and for some reason, I sat there. 4 people came in after me, 4 people went in before me, and finally I went and asked what was going on, and somehow I wasn't in their system, and even when I sat in the chair, they had trouble finding it. It's always something, isn't it? Now I am just heading back home. You've seen some of the dancing and whatnot from the Passamaquoddy Days from my time on the reservation, and I hope that you enjoyed it. I am not going to be doing a grocery haul today. I wanted to have that time to show you some of my video from the trip and also to let you know all of the things that happened. So I'm going to leave this here, and if you enjoyed this, I would appreciate you doing the usual: like, subscribe, comment, share, and hit that notification bell for the next time I upload any sort of video like that collab from Sunday. Also, don't forget to check out the description box for all sorts of information like my Amazon storefront, my Built Bar rewards, Fetch rewards, and my social media, both my Instagram and 3 Facebook groups that I'm part of. So check out that description box for all sorts of information. I will see you on Friday with a new recipe. It is a dessert this time. It is a coconut pie, and it's really easy. But until next time, bye.